appreciate the opportunity to talk to you on the topic of law and poverty. During a time which is probably we are experiencing the largest consolidation of wealth in the history of this country. This is clearly not the Lyndon B. Johnson war and poverty era. I would say this is a war on the impoverished. A war on the impoverished. And so your conference also happens to take place during Black History Month, Happy Black History Month, which for me, I have concluded, I had an aha moment at the top of Black History Month, but this is probably the most consequential Black History Month of my 61 years in the planet. As you all know, we recently lost a civil rights icon, Reverend Jackson. And so I'm clear that the goal of the founder of Negro History Week 100 years ago, this is the 100th anniversary, Carter G. Woodson and others, who declared Negro History Week, was that we were going to reflect on the pioneering work of Black leaders like Reverend Jackson, whose accomplishments are a part of this country's history and whose shoulders we all, regardless of your race or gender, stand on. But I think our reflection should also include people like Anna Julia Cooper. Is that a name you're familiar with? I wasn't until this Black History Month. Who was born into slavery, became an educator like many of you, an author, and is known as the mother of Black feminism due to a book she published in 1892 titled A Voice from the South by a Black Woman of the South. Cooper is the only woman quoted on your U.S. passport today. If you don't believe me, go look when you get home. And her quote reads in the back page of your passport, the quote reads, "The cause of freedom is not the root cause of race or a sect, a party or a class. It is the cause of humankind, the very birthright of humanity." That was a sister in 1892. So honoring Black history, honoring my Black history is very important. And remembering our most profound and eloquent legal scholars, justices, and teachers are important. Another case in point for me, my personal favorite, Pauli Murray. Legal scholar, activist, civil rights lawyer, feminist, womanist, Episcopal priest later in life. Those of you who aren't familiar with her, she was appointed as the first Black Deputy Attorney General, 1945. Thurgood Marshall quoted a book she wrote in 1950 as the Bible of the civil rights movement, States' Laws on Race and Civil Rights. So we need to dust that off today. She was the co-founder of the National Organization for Women. And a quote that I was exposed to when I first learned of Pauli Murray was this. She said it in 1970, and I stand by it today. "If you were to ask a Negro woman what she felt was her greatest accomplishment, she's likely to respond, 'I survived.'" So for me, referring back to our history for this Black History Month in 2026 isn't enough. Again, in the past, I celebrated the month with an intention to educate some and convince others that Black excellence just is. This year, however, I am not interested in salutations or certificates or grand gestures. This Black History Month, I am singularly focused on action. What are we all going to do with our fine, excellent brains to meaningfully end injustice? How are we going to use our energy, intellect, and academic vision to close wealth gaps, health disparities, and racial disparities, which are exponentially widening under this current federal administration? Or in the words of Anna Julia Cooper, what are you personally going to do to advance the cause of freedom? If your measure of success is publishing an intellectually stimulating article in an elite law journal that my constituents will never experience the joy of reading, then perhaps my being here today and my speech isn't for you. I can get down with that. But make no mistake, we are in a national war on the impoverished, on people of color, on immigrants, on everyone other than rich white men. Mm-hmm. He has declared war on all of the rest of us. This federal administration is attempting to destroy the infrastructure of policies and practices and laws that secured rights won by Reverend Jackson and the Rainbow Coalition. Diversity and inclusion, voting rights, and long-held freedoms are all under attack. We are witnessing the largest retrenchment of the safety net in modern history. Through Medicaid cuts, regulatory rollback, benefit eligibility restrictions, and federal preemption strategies. This is a direct assault on the infrastructure that keeps poor people alive. So we need warriors. And frankly, we're running out of them. I'm acutely aware of the long, rippling effects of the Ronald Reagan era funding cuts and restrictions on legal services. I lived them as a staff member at Western Center. Those federal prohibitions hit what actions poverty lawyers can take, who you can represent, and how you solicit business. The few remaining arenas where we have stopped these federal attacks have been in the courts. So I need you to ramp up your efforts to create the next generation of defenders, leaders, and icons. Your work matters to my constituents. Case in point, I have a huge county-run hospital and trauma center in the district, Harbor UCLA Medical Center. You heard Claire, for those of you who are not Californians. You got the lay of the land. LA County, largest county government system in the nation, 10 million constituents. I represent 1/5 of them. Late August, immigration enforcement apprehended a patient working in a car wash. He severely broke his leg during his apprehension and needed 2 surgeries at our hospital. He had no criminal record. And in the end, he was never charged with a criminal or civil offense. He was never charged. Yet for almost 40 days, 2 to 4 armed ICE guards watched him 24 hours a day inside his hospital room, not outside, inside his room. He wasn't allowed to use a phone. He wasn't allowed to confidentially talk to his doctor or nurse without ICE being in the room. For days, he wasn't allowed visits by his terrified family. He was emotionally deteriorating under the strain, unable to sleep, as the ICE guards loudly played Candy Crush when he needed to rest and recover. On my end, my team, with the clinical team and his lawyers, to ensure he was getting as much care and support as possible, and that the county respected his legal rights to only be discharged to a medical facility that we all trusted could properly care for his follow-up health needs and prevent an infection. That's when my team got involved. Then, the USC Gould School of Law Immigration Clinic, run by Professor Reese, secured a TRO requiring ICE to, quote, remove all restraints on the patient's liberty, including removing the guards or other security personnel in or near the petitioner's hospital room at Harbor UCLA Medical Center, end quote. So nearly 40 days later, the patient was discharged home to his family without any presence of ICE. This case isn't about just one patient. It raised questions about constitutional protections, access to counsel, and medical privacy. This is poverty law in practice, where the law meets public health governance. That is a concrete example of taking up the cause of freedom. That's the type of life-changing, transformative academic mentorship that we need. We need more free legal clinics to help our residents deal with a range of problems: consumer protections, medical debt, family law, domestic violence, housing rights, worker protection, immigration matters, free speech, Fourth Amendment protections, government benefits eligibility, record expungement, and yes, suing local government when we don't follow the law. Local government, like my very own here in LA, also needs your support as we work to withstand the withering impact of federal laws like HR 1 that are going to, if left unchecked, decimate our public health system. LA County is larger than at least 40 states, and again, you've heard about our population. HR 1, also known as the Big Ugly Bill, signed into law by you know who, enacted the largest federal funding cuts to Medicaid in our nation's history. These cuts severely impact LA County's healthcare and public health systems. We are expected to lose $2.4 billion over 3 years. That will threaten my ability to keep Harvard UCLA open, service reductions, widespread loss of health coverage. 1 in 3 children in Los Angeles is on Medi-Cal, California's version of Medicaid. 1 in 3. So early this month, I did something that I didn't want to do, but didn't really feel I had an option. I introduced in the Board of Supervisors passed on a 4-to-1 vote a proposed temporary 5 years only. Think about the magic of where we hope to be in 5 years. Half-cent sales tax for this June's ballot to help us save some of our hospitals and clinics and prevent public health services from frankly shutting down. Can you imagine that we have 5 reported cases of measles in LA County today? I talked to a colleague of mine in Shasta County, total county population of 180,000, and he has 7 measles cases. Can you imagine the public health disaster that could occur if we had no public health infrastructure, as millions of you descend on my county to attend FIFA World Cup, the Super Bowl, the Olympics, Paralympics, really in a matter of months? I know that this, if it passes in June, I know it will very likely be challenged in the courts because the cities feel that sales tax belong to them. And I'm just supposed to magically provide public health protections to their residents. So counties like ours are going to need to step up to help protect our local ability to respond and protect our residents in the face of unprecedented federal cuts to our safety net. The safety net is real. It saves lives every day. In times of federal cuts and resulting state budget constraints, I believe any health policy progress will hinge on local and homegrown efforts. In health, our county's revenue-raising options are limited, and like us, some local governments may need to resort to raising local taxes to keep residents safe. I believe public health is a form of public safety. As health insurance coverage shrinks and some are too frightened to seek medical care in traditional settings, other promising local health-related efforts will need to tap into trusted community messengers like doulas and promotoras and midwives and community health workers. Another local effort I've been pushing to address income inequality and the anxiety that comes from it, as you heard in my introduction, is our BREATHE program, our guaranteed income program. It's not a new concept. Dr. King actually talked about it in his War on Poverty before he was killed. I'm very proud that we had a young, dynamic mayor of the city of Stockton, Michael Tubbs, who piloted it first here in California, and then was visionary to reach out to many of his fellow mayors across the country. And so now there are roughly 32 local guaranteed income pilots going on throughout the country. So there's mayors for guaranteed income, and then there are counties for guaranteed income, of which I am co-chair with Cook County President Craig Winkle. But places like Alexandria, Virginia, Atlanta, Baltimore, Birmingham, Cambridge, Massachusetts, Columbia, South Carolina, Durham, North Carolina, Gainesville, Florida, Ithaca, Madison, Wisconsin, Mount Vernon, New York, Mountain View, California, New Orleans, New York City, Newark, Oakland, Patterson, Providence, Rhode Island, Richmond, Virginia, San Diego, California. And the list goes on and on and on. Shreveport, Louisiana, Santa Fe, New Mexico. All places who in the last, really since COVID, have launched various forms of guaranteed income programs. So Tubbs and other mayors who launched these initiatives really are a new breed of warriors that I think we need. They showed us ways in which they decided to think outside the box of our legal and regulatory constraint to bring immediate, no strings attached relief to people. And so other future Mayor Tubbs may be sitting in your classrooms right now. What tools are you giving them to think outside the sometimes rigid confines of the law to make a meaningful, real difference in their own lives and in their communities? For example, in this time of shortened attention spans, are you teaching students the skills of storytelling and messaging to advance legal justice? It's painful for me to say out loud, but AI is here. So how are students learning to positively use AI as a tool to lift their clients out of poverty rather than only using it to quickly write a legal brief? What are the legal obstacles we need to overcome to use AI to help people get a job, give legal help, or overcome the new federal burdensome paperwork requirements designed to keep them off of government benefits? Reverend Sharpton said recently of Reverend Jackson that, quote, he taught me that justice is not seasonal, it's daily work. Trying is as important as triumph, that you don't wait for the dream to come true, you work to make it real, end quote. I know I have 2 million constituents, which are 2 million daily reminders for me that I have a responsibility to wake up every day and make my work real. So you all have chosen to travel to LA County, come back after June so I can collect that extra half-cent sales tax. Some of you have traveled from far away. So the question I have for you all is why? Why are you here? How are you going to make your work real for poor families and children that you talk about, that you lecture about, that you write about every day? What steps are you going to take when you leave to do the daily work of justice? I appreciate the invitation to come speak. Thank you very much.